It's a ticket worth hundreds of dollars with no law enforcement in sight, just eyes in the skies. Red light cameras have been along intersections in Florida for over the past 15 years. Florida lawmakers passed the Mark Wendell Traffic Safety Act back in 2010. Our award-winning coverage of how communities use red light cameras started back in 2013 with an investigation into the timing of yellow lights. It prompted a legislative investigation, and FDOT increased the minimum intervals for yellow lights statewide. Months later, changes to Florida law took effect, giving drivers 60 days instead of 30 to dispute red light camera tickets. And instead of heading to court, drivers were given the right to request a hearing with a city or county appointed magistrate, kind of like a code enforcement officer. Drivers were also able to make a right on red after coming to a complete stop and not get ticketed. That was in response to what some called the rolling right trap, where thousands of drivers received citations for slow rolling turns. Then in 2014, our investigative team uncovered the change to the state's minimal yellow light intervals resulted in huge drops in red light camera revenue. That summer, the Florida Supreme Court ruled cities and counties that issued red light camera tickets prior to the signing of the law in 2010 did so improperly and had no authority. Some drivers did get refunds. Fast forward to 2024, lawmakers made some revisions to the state law about what communities have to report each year for that annual review of red light cameras and increased accountability for approving them. Many communities installed them to make our roads safer. But as 10 Investigates has uncovered, that's not always the case, all while some communities are collecting millions of dollars. Here's part one of Seeing Red, Seeing Green. It's a Sarasota intersection.
Yes.
Eileen Fabregas drives through nearly every day.
I was coming back home on Total Avenue.
But on a day back in June, she says something was off with the light.
We were all sitting in traffic, like the red light was stuck on red and wouldn't turn into green light.
She says minutes and minutes passed, and when it finally turned green,
there were a few vehicles in front of me, one being a semi-truck. And I just figured, I'm not gonna get stuck here another 10, 15 minutes in this red light. So I just bolted behind the semi.
That intersection is one of the 30 in the city with red light cameras. Fabregas's car caught on cam. When you first opened up the ticket and saw how much it was,
I was like, whoa!
Charged $158.
This is your first ticket?
My first.
Driving, anything?
Driving.
And she wasn't the only driver faced with that fine last year.
I see the evidence.
I let my friend borrow my car.
This intersection is problematic.
I don't know who was driving my car.
Our months-long investigation uncovered some cities and counties across the state collect millions of dollars a year from drivers with red light camera tickets.
Based on the testimony that was presented, the red light camera violation would be upheld.
Drivers try to fight them, but many have no luck.
They just blew me off and I'm like, okay, I'll take my violation and walk out, and which I did.
Did you feel like at that point that they were putting more emphasis on just getting your money over safety, or what did you feel?
Yeah, it was more like that. I wasn't being heard, and it was like, you get the violation or you get the violation.
We know that red light cameras are not new. They've been around since 2010 when lawmakers passed a law that allowed cameras to be installed and citations to be issued. What is new, there are restrictions on installing them. Communities now have to pass an ordinance and show that there is a heightened safety risk. They also have to send a report to the state each year, giving us a better look on whether or not the cameras are making intersections safer.
I didn't even know where they were.
Under Florida law, cities and counties with red light cameras have to report things like how much money was collected and whether or not the crashes at the intersections went down.
Some of these communities are seeing an increase in the number of crashes that they have at the intersections that have the cameras, and also people just running red lights. And you know, what people tell us is that it needs to be a multifaceted approach, not just having a camera.
The latest report, just published in January, compiles data from 2024 to 2025 from the 42 municipalities with red light cameras. It shows the total number of crashes went down by 220 from the previous year. Digging even deeper, though, 33% of communities with cameras saw the number of crashes increase, and another 5% stayed virtually the same. There was a greater increase in the number of crashes resulting from running a red light at 38%, while 14% had the same amount as the year prior.
Right. Is it keeping people safe or is just money for their budgets?
We see cities like Port Richey with a population of just over 3,000 bringing in nearly $1.2 million in paid violations. It's enough to ticket everyone there twice. Similarly, Florida City with a population just over 13,000 issued enough red light camera tickets to ticket each person who lives there. Tampa, the third largest city in Florida, taking in $14 million, while neighboring Orlando took in about half that and plans to double the number of cameras by this summer. Controversy over the money collected is just one of the reasons about 20 different cities removed the cameras in the last 2 decades. While other communities lean on research at the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety for keeping the cameras.
We compared the crash trends in these cities with the crash trends in some large U.S. cities without the red light safety camera program to see if there was any change in the crash.
Wen Hu, the researcher on the study, says they found large cities with red light safety cameras reduced fatal red light crashes by 21% compared to those without.
Yes, there was a significant reduction.
But something we also noticed is the study began in 2014 and was published in 2017.
I saw that it was done almost 10 years ago and didn't know if that would make it outdated at all, if there should be some more research done to really truly see how effective these cameras are.
So we haven't done any research after that one, but there might be other researchers who have done research which are more recent. But yeah, that's a good point. Research done by other safety organizations have found similar results, that these red light safety cameras reduce these injury crashes.
She says red light cameras are effective.
Do you guys still think that red light cameras do help prevent crashes from happening?
Oh, yes, definitely.
And so does John Lake with the Sarasota Police Department.
I think we run it the right way. And a lot of that negativity over the years was due to violations, people getting right turn on reds. And we don't enforce right turn on reds.
Florida's red light camera law is named after this man, Mark Wandel, who was killed just minutes away from his home after someone ran a red light in Manatee County, which neighbors Sarasota.
Honestly, I hate these cameras with a passion, but I also hate just wasting money.
Manatee County, though, has no cameras. They got rid of them after commissioners found the cameras did not result in measurable safety improvements while fining drivers.
We still have about 14 to 15,000 people that run red lights in Manatee County. The crash data is pretty consistent. Minor decreases throughout the year, not a significant decrease in crashes.
Wandel's widow, who advocated for the red light cameras, speaking to county commissioners about their decision.
Somebody had to die in order for these camera programs to take effect. Those cameras do not work alone, though. That's what we forget about. It's automated enforcement, it's education, it's advocacy, it's law enforcement, it's engineering, it's pulling every piece that we can to be able to save lives out on our roadways.
Okay, so we just showed you how much money is being collected. Well, now we're going to take a look at how that money is being used and sit down with the widow of a man who was killed by a red light runner and help push for the bill and ask her if she believes the funds are being used correctly. Here's part 2 of Seeing Red, Seeing Green.
Tell me about Mark.
Mark was my incredible husband. He was brilliant, bold, and he was kind, and he loved me. He wanted to be a dad.
Melissa Wandel was 9 months pregnant when she started feeling sick.
I didn't feel good at all, just in a matter of moments. Walked in the door, so I told my husband, I said, why don't you and Phil, my brother, go get something to eat, and then I'll see you in a little bit. And he said, but I love you, Melissa, and I'm gonna miss you. And I said, well, I miss you too, silly, but I'll see you in just a couple of hours.
A couple of hours later, the phone rang.
I got one of those calls that you never want to get. that there had been a crash. And I got to the corner and there was just lights and sirens everywhere. And the world just stopped.
Mark was killed in the crash. Melissa's brother was seriously injured. Their lives changed because a driver ran a red light.
And so that scene, that night, that crash should have never happened. That night, a person just simply didn't stop on red.
19 days later, Melissa gave birth to their daughter, Grace.
She was born into loss.
Melissa soon learned the driver who killed Mark had a long history of traffic violations, including running red lights.
She had 10 points on her license and 7 previous violations. Her last offense was for running a red light and being ticketed for it. A year later, she comes back and she not only takes a ticket, but she takes a life.
The penalty? A $500 fine and community service. That's when Melissa decided that grief alone wasn't an option.
I didn't know about red light cameras. I knew that they were utilized, but I never paid attention to them at all. So what is something that we could do?
Melissa began researching red light safety cameras, then took her flight to Tallahassee with her daughter by her side.
You can't give up and you can't give in. You know, many times each year the bill didn't pass and I would have people that would ask me, you know, aren't you disappointed? You've got to be disappointed. Yeah. This has got to be tiring. But I wasn't disappointing. I wasn't disappointed because we were educating.
That education paid off, and in 2010, the Mark Wandel Traffic Safety Act became law, allowing cities to install red light cameras in an effort to save lives.
So it's $150.
But years later, Eileen Fabregas started asking different questions.
Is that changing the behavior of people? Are people still running red light cameras?
After she was caught on camera facing a $158 fine.
Which I think is very steep.
She reached out to our team after getting the ticket, so we took a closer look. Our months-long investigation found that the latest data shows in more than half of Florida communities with cameras, crashes involving red light runners increased or stayed the same year over year. We also discovered cities in the state were collecting millions of dollars from the cameras. About $95 million worth of violations were paid last year.
Right. Is it keeping people safe or is just money for their budgets?
Here's how Florida law says the $158 ticket has to be divided. $70 goes to the state of Florida's General Revenue Fund. $10 goes to help support trauma care and emergency medical services through the Department of Health. $3 goes to the Brain and Spinal Cord Injury Trust Fund, and $75 goes to the city or county where the violation occurred. We contacted every community operating red light cameras to ask how that money is used. A Lakeland spokesperson told us the red light camera revenues are not designated for anything within the general fund. Like property tax revenue, they are simply a revenue source used to balance the entire general fund. Fort Ritchie told us the remaining funds are distributed throughout the general fund to support the police, fire, and general government of the city. Orlando was one of the only cities we found that uses the money for traffic safety.
They utilize it for campaigns to help educate people.
Most cities told us the money goes into the general revenue with no way to track whether the money improves the intersections or driver safety.
If we're collecting over $400,000 a month out of 7 intersections, we're not changing behavior pretty clearly.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. What we've done is we've created a fundraiser for government.
It's one reason Manatee County commissioners decided to not renew their red light camera contract back in 2022.
The revenue made from after everyone is paid out goes back into the 107 fund, which is unincorporated funds for Manatee County. Code enforcement operates out of the 107 fund. A lot of other things operate out of 107 fund as well. There is no general fund impact to the budget through code enforcement.
The unincorporated MSTU is offset by $500,000 a year from this revenue, and code enforcement is $3.3 million.
The state of Florida also collects millions each year, but the Department of Transportation told us FDOT receives no money related to this initiative. That's despite red light cameras operating on state roads like this one on Gulf to Bay and Belcher in Clearwater. Back at Melissa's house, when we first asked her if she'd change anything about the law,
I really don't think that I would change anything.
But after hearing where the money is going or not going,
At the end of the day, if we get back to that question of what would change in the bill, I would keep the bill exactly like it is, but then that general fund, if this much goes to the general fund, this $100 or whatever goes to the general fund, then, okay, let's tag that general fund to go back into, our, whatever happens with those out in our intersections, what can we do to improve it?
and we did take a look to our neighbors of the north, Georgia's law regarding red light cameras, and their law specifically says that funds collected have to be used for public safety. If you want to take a look at the whole report from Florida regarding red light cameras, you can find that now on our 10 Tampa Bay app. Jennifer Titus, 10 Investigates.